Hey kids, it's Monday, and welcome to the premiere vlog of Monday Mental Madness. The topic I've picked for today is quite controversial. I already know where some of my family members stand and a few of my friends. Today we're going to talk about inmates and inmate rights and what would you do. I'm going to give you a scenario, okay? A 17-year-old kid comes from an abused house, doesn't have any money. His parents were very violent, tried to even kill him, shoot at him, beat him with anything they could find. Just longs to be accepted and a part of something and get attention, whether it be good or bad. So he finds a couple of older kids, and the older kids make a bad judgment call and decide to rob a store. So he's wrong place, wrong time, and is attacked by a cashier because he's at the front of the store while the other kids are doing no good in the back. And like I said, young kid, had no money, public defender who'd never tried a case like that, new laws at the time. So the jury makes an example out of him and charges him with aggravated robbery and gives him life. Now this 17-year-old kid gets in there, and he's a puny little guy and does what he can to protect himself, which is join a gang. And he gets protection from the gang, but it's kind of their gopher, and racks up 4 more charges within the penitentiary. So it adds an additional 49 years. So this 17-year-old kid is facing life plus 49. And all he did was stand there while a crime was committed. Now, granted, he was part of this, so he does deserve to pay his dues. But my question to you, excessive punishment, really, is the topic, I guess. What would you do? Let's make it a little bit more personal. Let's say it's your child. Let's say your 17-year-old son or daughter, rebellious, gets involved in the wrong kind of things and the wrong crowd, and they go and do something stupid, and all of a sudden your son or your daughter is being sent to prison for the rest of their life. Do you think that they deserve a second chance? Would you fight for them? A lot of people have the stereotypes that prisoners are just animals. They're disposable humans and they're not worth anything. I don't believe that. I believe that everybody is better than their worst act. Jesus taught us to love all, despite their worst act. And I believe everybody can change, and I believe that everybody deserves a second chance. Now, granted, some people do not need to be outside those doors. They are actual evil, and that would be the best place for them. But I'm talking the minor offenses. We're talking, I've known of cases where, people convicted of murder would get 30 years, and then they get out. I've known people who have minor drug offenses. We're talking marijuana. We're not even talking hard stuff. And they're serving obscene amounts of years for a small offense. So, robbery. Does robbery constitute life plus 49? Do the small offenses constitute excessive punishment? Do you think these people should be treated like humans, or do you think that they get what they deserve? I personally, like I said, I believe everybody's human and everybody can change. And if they want to, it's up to them whether they need to change or not. But, and what would you do if, okay, let's say it is your child or your brother or sister, and you feel passionately, or, somebody in your family, whatever. It could be somebody very, very close to you. And the rest of everybody you knew was, don't waste your time on there. They're no good. They're nothing for, it's, all you hear is negative. And all you want to do is help that loved one. Okay? What would you do? Would you choose to help them, or would you forget about them? Because, hey, they did the crime. They're getting what they deserve. but is it really what they deserve? And do you really know what goes on, especially in TDC? I can tell you firsthand because I was married to an ex-con, and I learned a lot. I used to be typical society stereotyper, and let's take for example sex offenders, okay? And yes, for those of you who don't know, my first husband was a sex offender, and he was a sex offender because at 18 he went to a graduation party and he met a girl, and she told him that she was 17. And, you know, as the night went on, drinks went on, they had one too many, and they did stuff they shouldn't do. They did have sex, and her mom and dad found out about it and got mad because it turns out the little girl was only 15. And not only did she do that to him, but she did it to like two or three other people. And they all went to prison. All went to prison for 6 years. Before I met this person, before I met my ex-husband, I stereotyped, and as soon as I heard the word sex offender, you need to be killed, you need to be dead, you need to be gone. But then I learned, after, you know, him being very honest, one of the few times he was very honest with me, and I did my research and I checked his case, and everything he said was legit, and he was 2 months too old to get off with an affirmative defense called the Romeo and Juliet law. So he has to be a registered offender, sex offender, for the rest of his life. Now, is that fair? You know, girls can be quote unquote rapists and just as evil as men can. And somebody has to pay for the rest of their life because somebody chose to be dishonest. After meeting him and learning all I did, I realized and I found out that you can become a registered sex offender if you're having a heterosexual, consensual, above age rendezvous or romp anywhere with your significant other, with your partner, with your husband, whatever. And if there's a possibility that somebody may see and get offended, you know, you're a registered sex offender. You can go to jail. You know, certain exposures, if you're, you know, even Mardi Gras, I've heard of people getting charged and becoming sex offenders because they wanted them beads really bad. So, it kind of opened my eyes and opened my heart and opened my mind to not all sex offenders are pedophiles. Now, yes, child molesters and pedophiles, they need to be done away with. That's just my personal opinion. And that's coming from a mom. That's coming from a human being. You do not mess with a child. That's entirely different. But I think that cases, whether they're sex offenders or not, need to be individually based. Judge them only on that particular case. Don't stereotype them, because you're creating more of a problem than there already is. And it's a huge problem. So, back to my original scenario, the 17-year-old who was present during a robbery and got life and then an additional 49 once they got in because he was trying to protect themselves. You know, what would you feel about somebody like that? What would you do if that was one of your family members or your child or, you know, a dear, dear friend of yours? How would you react? And how would you handle the criticism from your friends and family who did not agree with you? And what would you do? Would you try to help that person get out? Would you start fundraisers? Would you, you know, I want to know what you do. I want to know what you think about inmates' rights and about excessive punishments. And if you've experienced this, by all means, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. Most of you know that I went to school for criminal psychology, and I've always been interested in that, and of course, unfortunately, my life took a different turn and I didn't get to complete all that. But even at this age, it still fascinates me, and I know actually a lot of people, you know, who are both in those situations and loved ones of people who are in those situations. And let me tell you, sometimes it's really heartbreaking to talk to some of these people. And that's exactly what they are. They're people. They're human beings. They're not monsters. They're not animals. Well, not all of them are monsters, let's put it that way. And everybody, I think, deserves a second chance and can change. So, like this vlog below, your first Monday Mental Madness. Give me a thumbs up, give me some comments, give me some insight. If you've been through it, let me know. And share it. Let's get as many people in on this as we can. And I'm going to eventually upload it to YouTube. And I got big plans that will be discussed in some normal vlogs later. But I want to hear from you. And I want to hear from your first Monday Mental Madness. If you like it, if you want me to continue to do these. If you got topic ideas, leave them down below. Right there in those little comment section. And I'll review them and we'll see where it goes. So, I love you all. Thanks for your input. And no rude, distasteful comments will be tolerated. If you can't keep it classy, keep it civil, then keep it to yourself. So, much love, and we'll talk to you soon. Mwah.